talking to Richie Cunningham or something, right? Now look to the left. This is your best shot of it. The Oppenheim Bridge. And then off to the right, the building with the flag. That was Montana Realty Corp. Scarface. Look back, the other building that says Crystallini. That is where Tony Montana had his pet tiger in the backyard, right? And Gina, his younger sister, right? She opened up the beauty salon, cut the ribbon right there, if you remember. And then, for any of you that have been to LA before, now I'm not talking about last week or last month, I'm talking about years ago, but behind this coffee bean up here, on your right, you're going to see a white building that says Supreme on it. It's currently a clothing store and a skateboard shop, but years ago, very popular music store. It was the old former Tower Records building here on the Sunset Strip for many, many years. Used in movies like Fun with Dick and Jane, starring George Segal and Jane Fonda. Really funny film, actually. But if you ever get a chance to watch, pretty funny. The building's still intact. Now, off to the left, you're going to see the Viper, building operated by Johnny Duff. Years ago, River Phoenix, you see that computerized cart? Food vendors put their food in it and they program it to go wherever, restaurants, and it's delivered. Years ago, River Phoenix, brother of Joaquin Phoenix, collapsed on that sidewalk from a drug overdose. Joaquin called the paramedics, but it was too late. His brother already had passed. Most popular and oldest club on the strip, the Whiskey the Go-Go. Fans come from all over to perform here. Goldie Hawn, one of the original go-go dancers back in the day. They don't have go-go dancers. But rock bands still come all the time there. All the time. Now, off to the right, two more of the older clubs still operating on the strip. The Roxy, another rock club. And just next door to it, the Rainbow Bar and Grill. That is where Joe DiMaggio, the New York Yankees, hold on. That's where Joe DiMaggio, the New York Yankees, and Marilyn Monroe on one of their very first dates. Proposed her. They got married. Later on, they were divorced. This place here has changed names like 3-4 times in my life. 70s, the Diary. In the 80s, the Key Club. Then it became the 1-0. Most recently, they just got done refurbishing it again. Now it's called Blues. These places on the strip, actually, they come and go all the time. You gotta be making fun of it. You see it by the exit sign right up here, too. All the time. Not as many. I don't know if you know the Indiana Jams. I don't know, man. That's sad. We have a lot of weather. It never gets really cool, right? Or not as cool, right? So we don't get snowed in. They can survive, especially by the water. The closer you get to the water, the warmer it stays during the wintertime, and the cooler in the summertime. It's cooler in the summer and warmer during the winter. That's why if you ever go down to Santa Monica Beach, you'll see by the Ocean Avenue. died from a pharmaceutical drug overdose. And so after he died, Michael's family went after that doctor that was giving him the pharmaceutical drugs. And the doctor not only lost his medical license, but also ended up spending some time in jail. Right? This is the garage area for that other side of the man. Now, this is where the former king of pop used to live. Off to the left-hand side, the next property I'm going to show you is where the former king of rock used to live. And I'm talking about Elvis Presley, Tennessee. He spent 12 years of his life here. This property is huge, as you're going to see. It's really a big piece of property. And this property is still for sale, $122 million, right? And you'll notice, you see the two fences. There's the main fence and the green fence behind it. And the reason for the green fence is while the estate is trying to sell the property, they're able to section it off and receive rental income from time to time when they rent it out. They'll rent it out in big parties. They'll bring in like a petting zoo atmosphere with bales of hay, sometimes with farm animals. The property is so big they have the room for this kind of stuff. And they'll have valet guys parking cars, all over here when they do that. Elvis had a daughter, if you remember, Lisa Marie Presley. He and Michael Jackson later on in life got married, if you remember, and now all three of them are no longer with us, Elvis, Michael, or Lisa Marie. Off to the right, this mansion here, owned by the Olsen twins, who spent most of their time in New York City now. The family bought this property when they were like 10, 11 years old due to the family's early success. They just did like a cosmetic refurbishing to the front of this property last year during the summer. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, on a Saturday afternoon, they had a pretty good sized party here. There was like 100 to 150 guests. There were cars all up in here. It was like all during the afternoon. And then now you're going to see how big Elvis's estate is. It's humongous. You'll see another gate over here, and they rent out one side or both sides. And like I said, they have valet guys parking cars everywhere up in here when they do this. They just did a roofing job to this side of the property, and they're still working on it. They're refurbishing it still. They just did a completely new roof right there. And then just adjacent to Elvis's estate up here on your left is where Mr. Harrison Ford stays when he's in town. Like I said, he's got his place up there in the Jackson Hole vicinity. And if you don't have to leave, why leave, right? It's so pretty up there by Yellowstone National Park. Up Montana, Wyoming, it's pretty. Now, all I'll see, generally speaking, housekeepers, groundskeepers, and security from time to time. That's it. And there's nobody here. There was a guy trimming trees here earlier today. And I never see anybody except for maintenance people. And speaking of Harrison Ford, the film that inspired Happy Days, the show, was called American Graffiti. That was filmed up in Modesto, California, in the Central Valley of California. And one of his earliest roles, Harrison Ford, if you remember, he was driving that very fast 55 Chevy. And he wanted to race John Milner, who had that yellow Ford coupe that was really fast. And they eventually did race, but Harrison Ford crashed. So John Milner with the yellow Ford maintained the status of having the fastest car in the valley. At least they say that. But the 55 was supposedly pulling away from him before he crashed. Now, take a look at the dirt mound up there. About 3-4 months ago, there was a huge mansion, and they had a balcony that was overlooking a private tennis court and a private basketball court. I guarantee you the tractors are still there. They're waiting for permits, probably. Now, I was thinking to myself for months, why would somebody rip down a mansion, tear up the tennis court, tear up the basketball court, right? Take a look back here. Up there on top of the hill is where the mansion was with the balcony. You see the tall green fence? The balcony was overlooking the tennis court right here, and behind the tennis court was the basketball court. Okay. Like I said, why someone would do that was beyond me. I didn't understand it. Now, that same person, this is a separate property. You see the shorter green fence. The property line used to go straight back from here. The same person, after tearing that down and ripping up the tennis court and basketball court, bought this one. This was a separate mansion, separate property, ripped it down. Talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's got properties everywhere. Calabasas. He's got one in Hawaii. I took people on a tour that came from Hawaii last year during the summertime, and they had just done a tour out in Hawaii, and he waved to them while I guess they were on tour. But yeah, this guy's, not only is he making money in film, he also just 2024, this last spring, him and his business partners started a new American football league called the UFL. It was the merger between the USFL and the XFL. It's a spring American football league that goes on while the NFL is on hiatus, right? So he'll build up something beautiful when he's ready. That guy's making some money. Even though he didn't make it in pro ball, I think he landed on his feet okay, right? I think he's doing better. He's making more money now than he ever would playing pro ball, I guarantee you that. I mean, he's killing it out there. But he, by the way, he played his college ball down at the University of Miami under the head coach Jimmy Johnson, who not only coached the Hurricanes to a national title, but also the Dallas Cowboys to 2 Super Bowl victories in the 90s. And then Jimmy Johnson got replaced by Barry Switzer because he no longer got along with the owner, Jerry Jones. And then they won their 3rd Super Bowl in the 90s. And that's the last time, as I recall, and my history is usually pretty good, that the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. So, yeah. But I would say Dwayne "The Rock" is doing just fine. I think he's just doing just fine. Now, you're going to see the big, tall palm trees. I'll get back to those in a couple of minutes. You can see the rush hour traffic going over the hill now. In the morning, it's going this way. This is one of the thoroughfares going over the hill into the San Fernando Valley side. That's why you see so much traffic. Just beyond the light on your right, the triangular shaped property right here. This is owned by Christina Aguilera. And you'll usually see like 3, 4, 5 really nice cars. I see the Mercedes, I see the Rolls Royce, I see the Range Rover, but I don't see the Cyber Tesla. She has the Cyber Tesla truck too. Sometimes I see an Austin Martin, but I don't believe that's yours. That's here once in a while. And then off to the left, this property with the palm trees in the front and the back. This is owned by Mr. Al Pacino, right? Now he is 84 years old. 84. He and his girlfriend, you can look this up on your phones, in the last year or so had a baby. Now, but I hear she's like 22 years old. But I also have heard from 2 different sources now that they've separated. That's a guarded gated community. This is not. So he has a security guard here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that guy will alternate with 4, 5, 6 other guys. It's too much work for one guy, obviously. So, I mean, they always have a security guard there every single day. Every single day. Coming up on the right, we're going to see this mansion here. And I'm glad now there's no work trucks. Earlier today there were work trucks. This is owned by the former 3-time world heavyweight champ Mike Tyson. He has people that take care of us. He has people here to take care of it for him too. But anyway, he went through some very difficult times when he was a younger man. But he held on to that mansion and the one out in Henderson, Nevada, close to Vegas. As you saw, the billboards, he still fights, but they're what you call exhibition fights. He's like 15 years old. He's not going to fight for the championship. has a new business. There's a desert community, lower desert community, that's about 2.5 hours from here, called Palm Springs. And
It's a
very
big mistake, huge. On the right side, the yellow building, Bichon, the most expensive store. So that's men's fashion right there in the way. The cheapest item in that store is a face mask for $500. Then just ahead on the left, Louis Vuitton, one of two stores. Balenciaga, the big white building on the left, is the new Chanel store. The temporary Cartier store is just on the right here. The new one is just across from Chanel right here on the left. And everything is lit up like Christmas lights, all the trees, the buildings partially. And these security guys, they literally drive around the neighborhoods 24 hours a day. And there's a lot of them. There's quite a few of these guys. If you're looking to buy a nice watch, out to the left coming up is the Rolex store. Right there, Rolex, on the left side. On the right side, the cheapest store is Gucci. That's the Beverly Hills Walmart. When there's a line of people outside, that doesn't mean that they got good deals going on. It just means they only let 4 people at a time go in. You have another Balenciaga. And we're gonna see the biggest Louis Vuitton store just at the light on the right corner. The other one you saw was the second next store. So just ahead at the light on the right, the big Louis Vuitton. That big hotel just ahead of us, that's the Beverly Wilshire. That's the Pretty Woman Hotel. That's where Julia Roberts walked down in Pretty Woman, or climbed down the fire escape. Out to the right, a better view, and then the alley of designer shops. So that's copied after a neighborhood in Italy with all the cobblestone. If you go about halfway up, you're gonna run into a store called Tiffany's. They have a diner that's open in the mornings, so you can go there and say you had breakfast at Tiffany's. And we'll make a left turn in a minute. We'll be on Beverly Drive. Everything else out here is just like anywhere else you would go. It's only Rodeo Drive that's expensive. And we're gonna see a restaurant in a minute called the Cheesecake Factory. The reason I'm showing you a Cheesecake Factory on this tour is because that's where they filmed The Big Bang Theory. It's really the only reason why I would do that. Other than that, it's just like any other Cheesecake Factory. And then it's not a bad place, it's a good place if you don't care about calories. The cheesecakes, they're like, I think 2,000 something calories per slice. But hey, you only live once, right? So that's where they filmed The Big Bang Theory, out to the right. And don't feel bad looking at people when they're sitting on the patio. If they didn't want to get looked at, they wouldn't be sitting outside. You know, you're just looking for celebrities. I mean, it's LA. That's why I said, when you see a big crowd, just take a picture and just study it later. Nathan Alls, Morgan Freeman likes to come here, Ben Affleck and J-Lo. I'm sure a few others as well. Then once you get up ahead, on the left, you're gonna see a museum called Mr. Brainwash Art Museum. So it's been around for a couple of years. It's features like toy cars, like from Matchbox, and books, and just artifacts from like the 80s and 90s. I think it's about $20 to get in, but they're only open like 3 days a week. So right there on the left, the Mr. Brainwash Art Museum. You see the Campbell soup spray. Some cars mounted on the building. Yeah, so like I said, it's about $20 to get in. We're gonna make a right turn in a minute. We'll be on Route 66 Santa Monica Boulevard. Actual owner that houses nowadays. It's not Steven anymore. But it still gets rented out by Britney Spears and a few others. And all this is Rodeo Drive, so if you're ever in town for Halloween, the trick-or-treating, this is the place to be. Because some of these people out here, and also other parts of the neighborhood out here, they give out cash instead of candy. And that's because they don't want to get sued in case they give you something to eat and you get sick. They figure you're not allergic to money, so that's why they do what they do. Out to the right, that's one of the homes, one of the few homes of Keanu Reeves. Matrix, John Wick, movie Speed, Point Break. And then just ahead on the right side, you're gonna see a white picket fence. That's where they filmed some of the scenes of Father of the Bride with Steve Martin. Yeah, I mean, it's big in the movies, and it has a basketball court. And there's not a whole lot of cars that park out here. When you see a lot of cars parked, and I'm talking about nice, expensive cars, that means that somebody's having a party. That's for various reasons, whether it's after party of like a premiere, or the Oscars, people have their own private Oscar parties, or a graduation, a divorce, a wedding, and so on. And then on the left side, that big mansion right there in the corner is Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, Avengers, Oppenheimer, the movie that won 14 nominees. To the left, Robert Downey. On the right side, that's how they built these homes. It's all made out of wood to make it more flexible during an earthquake. We get earthquakes pretty much every other day. Most of them are not felt because they're very small, they're between 2 and 3. The biggest one we've had recently was a 4.6, 4.7 out in Malibu. Out here, nobody felt it. I mean, if you were sitting still, you may have felt it. But if you live out here, a 4.7 is nothing. Like, you'll sit there and you're like, okay, that's it. And you go on with your day. People were tripping in New York. They didn't know what hit them. But like I said, they never had an earthquake. The last earthquake in New York was like 200 years ago. Out to the right, with the shutters, that's one of the homes of Chevy Chase. Saturday Night Live, Chris Waltz, National Lampoon's Vacation movies. So if you want to have a good chance of meeting Chevy Chase, go and hang out at the Beverly Hills Hotel at the Polo Lounge. So you can find some of the older ones there, like Chevy Chase. Mel Gibson is known to go there. Al Pacino, I guess. But Chevy Chase has been at the Beverly Hills Hotel quite a few times. Yeah, so like I said, with the tour buses out here, it's like nowadays every 5 minutes. That's one main reason why the celebrities don't hang out here as much as they used to. Out to the right, coming up in just a minute, that's one of the homes of Ringo Starr. The Beatles. He was in his early 90s. Who knows, his wife will probably have a baby soon. Last time I said that somebody slammed the door, so I'm picking up something. And I hit on the right is one of the only homes that I know about. I mean, here in Beverly Hills at least, that looks the way it does. It's got no corners, no edges. Right ahead here on the right. So that all used to belong to Dr. Seuss. He pulled all the children's books. On the right side, the church that's coming up, that's a Presbyterian church. That's where Elizabeth Taylor got married about 8 times. You would think she'd have picked a different church. I mean, she was an optimist. We'll cross over Route 66, Santa Monica Boulevard. 8 miles to the right is the Santa Monica Pier. The beginning of Route 66. It ends in Chicago at some point, 5,000 miles later. Behind those high-rise buildings, that's Century City. That's where the Fox Studios are. Century City is part of LA again. So it's just on the outskirts of Beverly Hills. And then once you cross that light, we'll be on Rodeo Drive for a couple of blocks. So this is the shopping district. And it's the only Rodeo Drive that's expensive or overpriced in that sense. Whether you live on it, get over the edge. He's not a baby anymore, he's Big Lincoln. The gate on the left is where Michael used to come out frequently, and he would read tour buses for people that would visit him, because everybody knew where he was. So he'd come out here and greet people. He'd let people go inside. If he had kids, he could leave them. Just kidding. That wasn't Neverland. Neverland doesn't even exist anymore. That used to be up in Santa Barbara, about 2 hours north of us. It was right off the freeway too. On the left side, the main entrance, where the ambulance came out. Don't mind the guard dogs. There are a couple of chihuahuas. But for the past 5 years, this thing has been rented out by Ed Hardy, the clothing company. And it's rented, so it's still owned by the Jacksons. At some point, like a few years back, they put that thing in for sale for like $200 million. But no one wanted to buy it. Ahead of us, they have construction going on for the... They've been having construction going on, but that's the back of the property of the Playboy Mansion. That all used to be owned by Hugh Hefner, that died about 12 years ago at age 94. His daughter took over the business. We'll get down the street and we'll see the back entrance, one of 6. It's a 10-acre property, so it's one of the biggest out here. And the entrance we're gonna see is for the security and the housekeepers, the staff. Everything on the left is Michael Jackson. And then on the right side coming up, that's the back entrance, service entrance for the Playboy Mansion. The kid statues are just a cover. And some of these big places, they have the gardeners basically living on that property. And they have big parties at the Playboy Mansion. Even though a lot of is not going on anymore. But they have big parties for like Halloween, New Year's Eve. Alright, so in a couple of minutes, we're gonna make a right turn, and we're gonna be on Rodeo Drive, the residential district. We'll see like 1 or 2 homes, and most of the homes on Rodeo Drive are just basically Airbnb homes, doctors, lawyers, drug dealers, and so forth. But if you rent a home on Rodeo Drive, it will give you bragging rights that you can tell your friends that you live in Beverly Hills from time to time. Like I said, with Airbnb homes, that's the main thing on Rodeo Drive too. A lot of the homes there are Airbnbs. And the cheapest Airbnb out here is like $600 a night. But you get a few people or friends together, that's really not a whole lot. And you'll have a whole house, big property, throw a house party. He put up nude statues to make it look like real nude models facing the traffic. That caused a lot of accidents. Out to the right is the guest house. And because of those statues causing accidents, eventually the city of Beverly Hills told Chico Fauci that you have to remove the statues. And he did, but it pissed him off. So what he did is he burned down the whole mansion. After that, that was a vacant property for the longest time, for like 2 decades. And then, there were celebrities that rented it out back in the 90s, early 2000s. But then ultimately, Tom Cruise basically bought the property. But Tom Cruise also has the money for it. Rambo, Rocky, Family Stallone, Tulsa King. Ahead on the right, that may look familiar to you when you look up on the hill. That's where they filmed the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will Smith. It's one of 2 homes. The main house of that show is in a gated community. On the left side behind the gate is Kevin Hart. Unless he opens the gate, you're not going to see him. He's only 5'1". You wouldn't see him either way. And he's cool. He's a funny guy. He's definitely good people. And then another funny guy, ahead on the right side coming up, is Adam Sandler. Before the pandemic, Adam would just hide out at random places and just run out and hop on a tour bus. So he did that like 3 times. On the left side, that's Bruce Willis. We all know he's sick. He's suffering from dementia for the last couple of years, so he's basically with family and friends. All the Die Hard movies, Armageddon, The Sixth Sense, Cop Out. The big mansion on the left where they filmed Get Shorty with Danny DeVito and Arnold. The Bachelor, The Bachelorette about 12 years ago. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Lisa Vanderpump Rules. But it's mostly rented out by studios. And these are all public streets. So you can come out here, drive around, walk around. If you see a big party, walk in and act like you're looking for David. There'll be a few Davids. And then down on the left coming up is Al Pacino, Scarface, right there, 83 years old, almost 84 now. His wife, 30 years old, that had a baby not too long ago. He was asleep too. Yeah, they definitely don't get younger. But, like I said, with cosmetic surgery, you can go a long way. And then once you make this right, out to the left across the street, one of two homes of Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. That's what they've had for about almost 4 years. Ben Affleck gets kicked out from time to time, about every 4 months. That's just because he drinks too much, probably for good reasons. But J-Lo is mostly in Las Vegas at the Bellagio. That's where she's got a residency. And she does shows in Vegas about 3 to 4 times a week. And Vegas is not that far from here. It's about 6 hours driving comfortably. If you're in Nebraska, you could make it in 4 hours. The flight is about a half hour. It's about 300 miles. So just ahead on the left, another couple that likes to fight a lot, and they split up again not too long ago, is Will Smith and Jada. Now it's okay to mention her name. When they're together, I can't say her name because I'll get slapped. I mean, I wish I'd get slapped because then I'll be rich. But yeah, again, like I said, that was just all publicity. They supposedly banned him for 10 years from the Oscars. I mean, nobody bans Will Smith, and even if they did, he wouldn't care. Because he'll still get nominated either way. And look at John Cena walking on stage naked. I mean, that's not a coincidence. That was planned ahead of time, too. Especially at a place like the Oscars, no one is going to let anybody walk up naked. They would stop them if it was a real thing. But, gets people talking. Out to the right, one of many homes of Johnny Depp. And he's got a few more in the hills, downtown LA. He has a condominium. But like I said, he's mostly out in France, near Paris. On the left side, we'll just say it's George Clooney. From when he's out here, he's mostly in Italy. Spends time with his wife on Lake Como. This is the home of his aunt, Rosemary Clooney. So she's been in commercials. She does singing. She does a little bit of... she does a little bit of everything. So 90210 is the zip code for Beverly Hills. Yeah, Beverly Hills has its own zip code. Ever since they figured out they had their own water source. That's again why they're a private city. Also, Beverly Hills Chihuahua was from that park. I head on the right side. Used to be the Beverly Hills Post Office that offered valet parking. It's a little weird, but it's Beverly Hills. Now it's a performing arts center. However, in the 40s, it was a train station. The big tower on the right that looks like a church, that's a city hall. That's where Eddie Murphy walked out and said that's the nicest jail he has ever seen. It probably is, but that's not the jail. The jail is coming up just ahead on the right. That's also police headquarters. So it doesn't even look like either one. Just out to the right, that's the jail, the SWAT team, and the 2 cells. Like I said, it's 5.1 over. That brown building on the right coming up is UTA. That's the United Talent Agency, the biggest talent agency in the United States. So we'll be a few minutes. Right now, this is all Route 66. We're gonna get out of Beverly Hills in a few minutes and into the main district of West Hollywood. We'll see some more clubs and restaurants and bars. We'll see the Troubadour. Originally used to be a coffee shop back in the 50s. But that's just like the Whiskey A Go-Go, where a lot of rock bands have performed. Janis Joplin performed there a bunch of times. Aretha Franklin. The Rocket Man with Elton John was filmed there. And then you'll see a place that used to be called Pump. So that was owned by Lisa Vanderpump from the Real Housewives. And also a place that she still owns called Tom Tom. This is the Fine Grill. She sold the Pump Club about almost a year ago. And that's only because they wanted to charge her more rent. But the reason why celebrities don't get nightclubs, restaurants, or any type of business is simply for a tax write-off.